Wow, that conversation I just had was deep, but I had it with myself because the camera wasn't even on. Cause like right now my drum is acting as the cameraman right now. But anyway, I had a deep conversation for a moment, and I knew that one was on fire. And I got to do it over again, so hopefully I will remember what I said. But then, like I said, when I was talking to myself, let me give you an example. A lot of the times, I don't know if you all ever had this situation happen to you all, but I have had situations where I have had people to come to me, talk to me, ask me for things, walk away, and vanish. Right then and there, I say, that was a ghost. What is a ghost? I can't call him a ghost because I and a fellow witch, we sat and we talked. He came up with the notion, I came up with the notion, and we both agreed that a lot of the times when we see these type of people which do vanish, that they may be in another dimension. We're in our dimension, and at that moment we merge together. We merge together where we can see one another. They are just as frightened of me as I am frightened of them. To them, I may be a ghost, and I may have vanished in that moment because we have come together. And that little moment, our planes emerged, and we were together at that moment. And it doesn't last long because it goes that way, just like this right here, and they part and go their separate ways. So anytime you see these people, you think about it. Do you think that at that moment that maybe two dimensions collided? I mean, they talk about parallel universes and stuff like that. I think this is kind of different though, because I think the theory of the parallel universe says that, it's another me that looks exactly like me in another dimension. And then every so often, sort of like on Twilight Zone, if y'all ever seen that episode, and then you come together and you see yourself, and it's just like this weird moment. Well, I think I want to separate that from the parallel universe and use another theories of the fact that there are many dimensions and that there are so many that sometimes they collide. I even came up with a theory, and I thought really, really hard about it, and I'm going to talk about this, what I was talking about in the beginning, but the camera went on. I'm going to use my son. My son was 11 years old at the time. We lived in this haunted house. Anyway, my son had a tendency, because he eats a lot, to like to sneak in the refrigerator late at night about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. He's in the refrigerator, and he knows he's not supposed to be in the refrigerator without my permission. But anyway, my son is much older now, but I'm just talking about him. Well, anyway, I heard this yell, this holler, this hysterical scream, and I was like running downstairs to see what was going on. And lo and behold, who was in the kitchen near the refrigerator? Well, it was my son. I said, what is wrong with you? What you doing down here? Mama, it was a little girl. Little girl come here with a little red dress on and pretty long curls and some red shoes, and she was on her way inside our refrigerator. She scared me, and she ran off. She was scared of me too. And then I stopped and I thought a minute, and at the time I said, well, maybe it was a little ghost girl, just coming back through or what have you for whatever reason. And I kind of thought she was from the 60s or something like that when he talked about the little red shoes, because back in the 70s when I was a little girl, I had a pair of little red baby doll shoes with the little belt strap that goes across it, with the little red dresses. We did that, little knee-high socks. And I kind of thought, maybe another time period. But then I got to thinking really, really hard. Because when you're dealing with dimensions, there is no time period. Theirs may be a little bit slower, ours may be a little bit faster, but time is an illusion. But anyway, I kind of came up with the theory, and I thought it was very interesting. The fact the little girl was so familiar with the fridge, it was almost, I thought in my mind, it was her fridge too. How about if in different dimensions, the same house exists in her dimension as in my dimension, and we are actually sharing and living in the same house? How about that this particular house existed in more than one plane at one time? and that there are dwellers in each plane that actually live and own this house, and that by our own label we may say that time period is the 60s there, whereas in our time period it's the different. But anyway, you know, just thinking over this thing, you know, these things that occur to us that we have no explanations for, no one to tell us what's going on, because I feel like in an ancient time we were very in touch with ourselves, with our spirituality, and at that particular time it was just something we all had. But I do believe during the burning times and the times when they persecuted to kill those, all in the name of religion, a lot of the people that were like us, most of them are no longer here, because it was sort of like a weeding out thing to destroy those who don't believe. But now more people like us, we are coming. And I want to look a moment at this camera and see how much time I got. I mean, we are so capable of so much more than we are granted and we are allowed to have. And I'm talking about our brains, because I see a time period, because, you know, I can go back in time periods. I have, and I don't want to keep using the word time, but I would use word for the purpose of the fact that that's what we are familiar with. Where I'm telling you, man, I know in one of the videos I talked about this place that where we all wore these white garments, and you know, and we had so much respect for the earth, and we used our eyes to lift great pillars of stone, and we made no effort to do anything of the nature physically, and we spoke telepathically. There was no sound in this place because we needed not, you know, we didn't need it, you know, because we were able to speak long distances to one another, you know, at will. And you didn't need a voice. You didn't need a voice because this was much more powerful. But at that particular time, we taught our kids this ability, and it's like they say again, if this is not taught within, it's just like speech. If it's not taught within the ages of between birth and 5 years old, it's lost. It's just like the feral children. You can't teach those kids how to socialize with human beings and stuff like that when they're raised like that. It's not even possible. I mean, they had one account, and I'm gonna find out the name so you can go and look it up for yourself, where they tried to teach this one girl that was raised. She was not raised by anybody. She was left inside of a bedroom. She had no human contact. But when they did find her, I think she was like 12 years old, and they tried. She did learn to talk, but she was never able to use the words and the meaning to associate with anything. It was sort of like a parrot. She was like a parrot. But anyway, I feel the same way about our ability to use telekinesis and telepathy and stuff like that. I feel like most of that is critical. That is worked on at the very tender age of birth to 5 years old. And after so long, when you don't use these skills, you lose them for generations to come. They become useless. They're a part of our brains that are now, like they call them, what they call those parts? Dormant parts of our brains that cannot be woken up and stimulated because they hadn't been used, you know. And so, I mean, it's a great day right now where you can actually teach your kids from birth. If you can work on some of that right now from birth, you know, you'll probably be able to regain that with your child. Most children are very psychic in nature because they don't have all of that that feedback and all of that brainwashing and programming to deal with, and worrying over bills and all this other stuff. So the field is very, very open with little kids. So hang on a minute.